my daughters are turning, they're 12 and 16. And I was feeling a lot of overwhelm as a parent, as a single parent, and not really knowing how to be with the wild swings of emotions in the house.
Phil, for you.
My older daughter had started menstruating, and my younger daughter, she had just started. So I had two children that were being flooded with emotions, and I realized that I really didn't have the tools to stay grounded through that. And when I would go to great overwhelm, I would parent from a place of the historic trauma that I experienced as a kid, and I didn't think it was good.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
Okay.
And so then I started looking at my whole life of like, what are the choices I'm making? Am I supporting myself in every area of my life? Am I following my passion and my aliveness with my work, my profession, right livelihood? In Buddhism, they call it right livelihood. Am I living a mission that I'm excited about? I just started to look at every aspect of my life in order to support what felt like a big movement for me that needed to occur, to be able to parent and show up for them in a positive way and hold space for the big emotions that occur in the house.
Okay.
Teenage girls.
Okay. Okay. So when you're a specific example of holding space with big emotions, is there one of those that you feel comfortable working with?
An example, like when it
Yeah.
happened? Oh, when
And when you were successfully being with uncertainty.
yeah. I think my younger daughter, she's got ADHD like I do. And I've learned a lot over the last, year or so. I've changed the way I've responded. Sometimes it seems like she's making choices designed to escalate the situation. Like it'd be an example of that would be, I'd take away something as a natural consequence for something that she had done. Oh, here's the natural consequence. I shared with you beforehand that this would happen if this happens, and I would do it. And then she would escalate in a lot of really exciting ways, whether it's cussing at me, directly, telling me F you, whether it's like going into my room and saying, I'm going to go look all throughout this room and find that thing and take it back. And there was for me, I think, settling in and just saying like, I'm not going to physically stop you from doing what you're going to do. I'm going to be here with you. I'm going to sit here in the room, and I would just like start cleaning my room and just be in the room. I would ask her to leave. I'd ask her, not to do that. But, I think earlier I would physically stop her or physically take her phone or do things that I think were aggressive instead of I'm finding ways where I don't have to do that, but I can provide a natural consequence. And as she escalates, maybe de-escalate myself and be with her excitement. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I heard several things like really settling in and being with her in whatever she's having. And you mentioned de-escalating yourself while she escalates. And there's something about being with that seems really significant. So when you normally go about being with her in those moments, how do you do that?
Normally?
Yeah.
It's changed so much.
Okay. Well, what's a version that you're happy with?
I think it's being calm, feeling loving, feeling compassionate and empathetic for her.
Okay.
Allowing myself to feel, putting myself in her shoes. I had a challenging childhood, and I could imagine I would behave in similar ways that she would behave. just kind of wanting autonomy and independence and power and control over her world,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
having, things taken away or things dictated to her that she didn't want to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that empathy or compassion, and, if there's some kind of consequence, having it be lovingly provided, in the same way that, we talked about the rebound, that's some way of changing or setting the boundaries and expectations in a loving way.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, I think that that's an amazing ability, being able to be loving and compassionate while your kid is having a big reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and joining them in the experience as far as being with them
Yeah.
in that. Yeah. What do you do when that isn't working? When you can't be calm or compassionate in those moments?
Now,
Yeah.
more recently,
Yeah.
um, probably feel overwhelmed. So what
Okay.
does overwhelm look like for me is probably the
Yeah.
question. Um,
And you feel overwhelmed, and then what do you do?
yeah, the coping strategies. How do I cope
Yeah.
with that overwhelm?
Yeah.
Probably like breathing.
Okay.
The positive ones, I have both.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a human of 2024, so maybe go and scroll on the internet, distract myself.
Okay.
That
Okay.
happens.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't think that's the best way to do it, but
Okay.
I have done that.
Okay.
I think when I have clear sight and support myself in the way that's probably the best, it's probably breathing,
Okay.
taking space.
Okay.
How can I support myself through overwhelm? Yeah, tell myself stories, or like try
Mm.
to like reframe my experience in those moments in positive ways.
Mm. Great.
These aren't always present for me, because sometimes
Yeah.
overwhelm is a real distorted place to be.
Oh, yeah. You can't even remember to breathe
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
or
And
I
sometimes
feel
you
like,
do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or sometimes in overwhelm, I feel like I have to have resolution,
Yeah.
and I can't take space.
Yeah.
And the desperation around resolution is an escalatory act in and of itself.
Right on. Yeah.
Instead of saying, "Oh, this taking space, letting things dissipate or die down."
Mm-hmm.
I think about a cave diver,
Mm.
and when they get excited, they can flail and move their body, and it puts a bunch of silt up, and the whole cave can be filled with this cloud, and they can't see anything.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think that's the same with
Mm.
can be with overwhelm and that excitement.
Mm-hmm. Right on. Yeah. Great metaphor. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask this question. You've mentioned already some emotions. So when you're successfully holding space, and being with her in those uncertain moments, what's the background emotion when it's going well for you?
Dang, that's a tough one. I think whenever these things happen, I feel a lot of sadness.
Okay.
I feel a lot of guilt and shame,
Mm-hmm.
that there's these stories I tell myself that if I was being a good parent, she wouldn't be in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would be able to Aikido,
Yeah.
to keto all these moments and
Yeah.
redirect,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
It's
even
that.
when it goes well, I feel like I'm at fault
Mm-hmm.
for it getting to where it got.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that if only I could, or if only I would have thinking we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah. When you're able to stay calm, you had mentioned love and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Are those there sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something I'm working on.
Yeah.
Having that be there more and more.
Nice.
Self-compassion,
Yeah.
self-love, and also compassion for
Yeah.
my daughters.
When you feel that kind of compassion, whereabouts is it in or around your body?
On my chest, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And does it have a size or a shape there?
I mean, it's probably around my heart.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
around your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are there other qualities like temperature or color? It's just as you tap into
It
it.
seems red.
It
I don't know.
seems
For some
red.
reason, it's like a heart.
Okay.
Like
Awesome.
it is a heart.
Okay.
So like
Cool.
it's either pink or red or some kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so as you continue
And
to
it's warm. Yeah.
nice. It's warm. Okay. Great. Is there any movement there?
As I think about it now,
Yeah. Or as you go into it now?
it's still there. It doesn't flutter or anything.
And it's still.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pink or red. It's like the heart. It's warm. Is there anything else about all that? And compassion?
I notice the change in your voice has me settle.
Mm.
It's fuzzy around the edges.
Mm. And it's fuzzy around the edges.
Maybe it's this invitation to take my awareness into my body
Hmm.
and less into my mind. This
Hmm.
being there in my chest has a quality to it of softening,
Hmm.
or I feel softened.
Hmm. And you feel softened.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else about being in your chest and that kind of compassion and pink or red and warm and fuzzy around the edges?
Yeah, there's like I just noticed I shimmy there's a playfulness somewhere back there behind it all.
And there's a playfulness.
Seems like when I'm in that
Uh,
space, it's okay to play.
Ah, nice. And it's back there.
Mm-hmm,
Uh,
back behind the heart, back
okay.
behind this.
And-
I shimmied my shoulders. I'm almost an investigator going like, what does that mean? I think it means there's like a dog that wags its tail at some point.
Okay, nice. And whereabouts back there is that playfulness?
It's behind that
Okay.
heart center.
Okay,
It's
great.
behind that.
And is there a size or a shape to playfulness?
No, it's
Okay.
expansive.
It's expansive.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. And the shimmy of your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Go dog wagon. Okay. And is there anything else about all that compassion and playfulness?
Anything else about it? Yeah, happiness. There's a happiness to it.
Okay. And happiness. Nice. Great. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for that. Okay. So when there's not that compassion and playfulness and happiness, what triggers you to let you know that that isn't engaged?
I'm probably trying to
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to think about stuff or find a
Yeah.
plan or
And how can you tell when you're trying to think about things?
when oh, what's happening is I'm relying on control or like obedience or some
Mm.
kind of compliance in order to know that I'm okay
Okay.
because I
Okay.
feel out of control.
Okay.
And when that stuff is happening,
Mm.
I'm not engaged with
Mm.
the love and the compassion. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I just need to know that I'm okay, that I can
Mm-hmm.
control the situation
Mm-hmm.
and the system the information that lets me know that is like compliance.
Mm-hmm.
Like people doing what I'm telling them to do, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it.
And I got a little Buddha.
Yeah.
My daughter's a little Buddha. She's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
teach me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. She's inviting you over and over to move into the space of the heart,
yeah.
to the compassion, to the playfulness,
Yeah.
happiness.
Because I think that probably is a remedy
Yeah.
for her
Okay. Okay.
and for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can be really logical. I can be in my head a
Mm-hmm.
lot
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and not in my heart and not in my body and miss things, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about being with uncertainty, holding space, and this compassion and playfulness and happiness. What's that's like what? That compassion and playfulness and happiness. What's a metaphor for that?
A metaphor for that would be a metaphor. It seems like it's love and being with. It's what would be a metaphor for that? I don't know. You wouldn't be angry at a wounded bird.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
love it and you would want to
Yeah.
heal it.
Yeah.
And for some reason I see the expressions as not that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's helpful to think of, oh,
Mm.
this person's experiencing trauma. They're wounded right now.
Yeah.
And they need love. The remedy for that is love and compassion, not more control and obedience, not more.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
probably a time and place for control and not control, but time and place for order,
Yeah.
like the yin and yang.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not it.
That's probably not the time and place for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Might not even be able to exist there in its truest form.
Yeah.
Something else is happening. It's like a copy of that. It's like a inadequate copy.
Say more about that.
Like real obedience can't occur if I am, if I don't have control. Like, or that kind of structure or discipline or form.
And obedience probably occurs in a safe environment.
Yeah.
Where
Yes.
you feel trusting of the person that you're
Yeah.
giving obedience to.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah.
not going to hurt me.
Yeah.
I trust them. I'm going to follow their lead.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, I'm scared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do what this person that's scaring me says to do.
Right. And that's it's a survival technique.
Yeah.
So
fight, flight, fawn, freeze.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if this kind of compassion and the playfulness and happiness, if that's an answer, what's the question?
If that's the answer, what's the question? How do you support yourself and the people in your life through challenging times?
Okay. How do you support yourself and the people in your life through challenging times?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Okay, last question. So it's really common after I ask these kinds of questions that someone will text me later and say, I forgot this super important thing about how I do compassion and playfulness or space holding with my daughter or uncertainty, whatever.
Yeah.
So imagine that I'm driving away and you're like, oh yeah, there's one more thing.
There's one more thing.
Anything come to mind?
That's funny. All this stuff is so new.
Yeah.
You're almost seeing it shape.
Yes.
It's been shaping over the last, I've been doing this for a year, and this all happened around the same time. The challenges with my daughter and the challenges with work and challenges, just all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm incomplete. I'm figuring it out. I'm in the boat, crossing the river.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what'll arrive on the other shore, but I think it'll be a lot better
Yeah. Okay.
than what left.
Okay. And it's all really new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Got it.
It's new.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are some NLP modeling questions.
Yeah.
And as you watch this back later, you may notice things about your model of compassion and playfulness that you find helpful and that you want to do more of. And hopefully you have a little appreciation for yourself in what you're trying to do and what a new way you're working with your daughters.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's a way that you've worked with yourself a long time. Or you've been developing these tools for dealing with uncertainty for a long time.
Do you want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the underpinnings of it, or
Sure.
how?
Yeah.
how
We
these things
can
work a little
we can
bit?
shift from this.
Yeah. To a meta awareness, if you will.
From meta awareness. So I learned these questions from Mike Bown. He's an amazing NLP practitioner. Does not describe his skills, but he has those too. He's a modeler, and I learned modeling from him in this way. So once upon a time, when people wanted to model somebody in NLP, they'd go live with them and copy everything about them. So like Stephen Gilligan, he went and hung out with Milton Erickson, and wore purple robes and had a craggy voice, and
He just did all
of it. And that's really fun. I mean, like there's some amazing benefits from that.
The
And
Wizard of the Desert.
the Wizard of the Desert. Yeah.
Have you seen that documentary?
It's been a long
But you
time.
have seen it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my mom, I grew up on with Erickson's voice in the house all the
Really?
time. Well, because she would listen to his recordings of him.
Right?
Yeah, and tapes and stuff. So then David Gordon and Graham Dawes released a book that was a shorter form of modeling, where you could really get into somebody's worldview, not just by watching them from the outside, but like by a line of questioning that was more efficient, where you could get to the heart of their ability more quickly. And so Tom Bown and his colleague Tom Carroll, Mike Bown and his colleague Tom Carroll, they took that even further and created a short form that can be done in 30 minutes to an hour and a half. There's more to it that we didn't do.
Yeah.
But it provides an interesting model of a small, like a sub-ability. And I think it's really cool and useful, and it's one of my favorite tools in NLP. And I could ask those questions of every single person in Austin. I could find an ability that they're good at and drill into that and learn about their own excellence in their own life. And I love that because it allows us to see the beautiful humanity of each other. Yeah.
What did you learn from me in that time?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that the anecdote of dealing with a kid who's overwhelmed and escalating, that the anecdote is compassion and playfulness, rings true and sounds like a really amazing thing to be able to do. So, I mean, I have like awe for that.
Yeah.
For being able to have compassion and playfulness in moments when somebody else that you really care about is having a different experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I should find somebody to model that from.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I'm working
I
on
know
it,
this
but
guy named
someone
Phil.
who's really great at it. Someone who does it every time.
Well, as you watch this back, you might learn more about how you do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes just talking about this makes it easier to do for yourself.
Yeah.
Like having awareness of the structure of it and the sensation qualities. And also noticing the times when it's easy and that kind of thing. So
yeah, the things I noticed in that practice or exercise was, at a certain point I closed my eyes, took my awareness in my body, and there's this way of tying this to multiple different things.
Yeah.
To feelings, to sense perceptions, to color. We use multiple different things to kind of, I think possibly of giving different pathways to this experience.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got a color. What you could even put, like, what does it smell like? Like,
Yeah.
making it a real 3D, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
sensation,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it bigger
Yeah.
or more accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could even practice with it. I don't know if you use the term in your NLP classes, future pacing, but that's a way of rehearsing for the future once you have awareness of a pattern that you want to do over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's a really beautiful pattern. It's not like a bummer to practice. But yeah, we could practice it right now if you like.
Future pacing?
Future pacing, yeah. It's just practicing for the future.
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Let's future pace.
Okay, so let's just practice that sense first. So just, if you want, you can close your eyes and go inward and notice what it's like when you put your attention in the region of the heart with that compassion. And just notice if it's, helpful to see the pink or the red and the fuzzy edges. Feel the warmth. And that there's a stillness there. And just allow yourself to feel that for 3 breaths. Great. And now you can just notice behind that the playfulness and stay with that whole thing if you can.
Yeah.
The compassion and the playfulness. And just allow that sensation to be there. Yeah, it does. It has a shimmy. It's great.
Like a little, like a handshake to that one.
Yeah. Great.
It feels good.
Okay, great. And now come back here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and kind of like shake that off.
Okay.
So choose a time that will be likely to happen in the next week or month when your daughter might have a response.
Yeah.
And I don't even have to know about it, but choose a specific time. You got one in mind?
Got one.
Okay, great. So in your mind's eye, see that she's clearly starting to have, and maybe hear that she's clearly starting to have one of those escalation excitement things. And then immediately take a breath and allow that sensation of compassion now within the chest. And see the red or the pink. Good. And that inward looking.
Yeah.
Begins with that. Nice. And the playfulness is already starting there.
Yeah.
Great. And just let that persist and notice when you stay with that compassion and playfulness, how it changes your outward behavior with her. And maybe it changes who knows what it's doing with her, but notice it changes your outward behavior with her.
Yeah.
Your sense of the whole thing. Great. Nice. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. How was that?
Yeah. Giving me, we're practicing now in a comfortable environment, something that later on I might be able to trigger.
Yeah.
That sensation, that way of being, that thing that Tom Best had with you sitting next to you. That because that aura, that vibe has an impact on the environment.
Yes.
I mean, shoot my arms at my daughters, it'll be a little different.
Yeah.
If I'm,
Yeah. And the things we used to think of as problems or this external thing that's happening that I don't like actually becomes the reminder to move to compassion and playfulness.
Yes.
And that to me, that's very good NLP. That's the programming part of where I'm bothering to rehearse the most important moments of my life bothering to rehearse these positive states of being
Mm.
so that I can be more myself and help others more. So let's practice it one more time.
Okay.
So choose a different time that's likely to happen, and you might just be guessing.
Yeah, no, I'm not
Yeah,
guessing. It'll be a
okay.
time when I tell her it's time to get off of her phone for a little bit.
Okay.
These kids these days,
Kids these
they do
days.
not want to get off their phone, y'all.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
you guys may be watching this on. So get off of it after you watch this.
Okay. So
Yeah.
go into one of those times and notice seeing and hearing at the very beginning, the first sign that there might be some excitement, escalation from her. Great.
Mhm.
And just go right into that inward and compassion. Great. And the red and pink soft edges. Yeah, and the playfulness is already showing up. Nice. And just let that persist. And notice that the more you have that, the more it changes your behavior in that future moment with your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just let that play forward to the end of the movie, noticing how things are different for you at the end.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. And maybe you have some practices you do every day. I don't know. Like I always drink coffee. I'm almost always in nature in the morning. If you wanted to, you could do this little visualization.
As a practice every morning. Part
Yeah.
of a morning routine.
Yeah, exactly. You could just link it to one of the other things you do.
Because then what we're doing is we're anchoring.
Yes, we're anchoring. Yeah.
anchoring.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. NLP word. Yeah.
Yeah. And NLP word for anchoring means like, so you could probably explain it more than I will, but I'll give
Do
my
it.
best and you can fill in the places
Yeah.
where I miss. But anchoring is like, I've got this experience with my daughter, these challenging moments, and now I'm anchoring those challenging moments or even the precursors to them.
Yes.
The very beginning of them
Yes.
to a state.
Yes.
A
Yes.
state of mind, a state of body, my ideal state.
Yeah.
And so now if we anchor these two, when that happens in the present, when I
Yeah.
start to see this, I can then
Yeah.
have that state of compassion, that state of love, that state of playfulness as a
Yes.
resource
Yes.
to meet the experience differently in an ideal way.
Yes. And the reason we practice is we'd really like that to happen fairly automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the moment, we're not necessarily thinking ourselves through what we want to do. In the moment, we're just being.
Yeah.
So hopefully when those beginning signs start to happen, they're linked to what you really would like to have happen within you.
Kind of
Yeah.
like karate,
Yeah.
where it's muscle memory.
Yes.
Right.
You shoot the baskets when you do the free throws in your mind, you always make the goal.
Well,
You know? Yeah.
Well, there was that study where they had a control group that practiced the piano on a piano,
Oh, cool.
and they had another group that practiced the piano in their mind.
Oh.
And they found that both of them learned the piano.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Which makes sense because if you look at Buddhism, the Yogacara school of Buddhism, the mind-only school, they believe that there is no physical reality. It's all mind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the act of visualizing, I think, is a really powerful tool.
Yes.
And we're using visualization and we're using anchoring together.
Yes. Yeah. And somatic self. We're
Yeah,
using the
somatic
felt
experience.
sense.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Because
so
we've
good.
got a place in our body,
Yeah.
giving it a location, a
Warmth.
color,
Yeah.
warmth, a
Still.
feeling.
Yeah.
And then we got some movement associated
Yeah.
with it. All that stuff we tether to an ideal or optimal state.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I love your teaching on anchoring. I
Dude.
can't wait to learn more from you.
Awesome. Oh my